Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. At the 3 o'clock position we have Idra as the blue zerg, 6 o'clock position we have Az as the red protoss, and this is going to be on Lost Temple. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Az is one of those guys who's really experimental, Australian protoss player, one of the better guys I've seen in the circuit. I think he's just really fun to watch. I've been wanting to do a commentary of his for quite some time, so glad I got this one. 3 o'clock position, Idra, blue. He's got a fan club, he's got a hate club. Whichever side you're on, whether you like him or not, he's still one of the best Zerg players in the world currently, and I know we haven't seen a lot of the Korean StarCraft 2 guys play, but Idra has proven himself in multiple tournaments. He's very consistent, he's very strong, and honestly, his macro style is very hard to cope with, particularly as a Protoss opponent on a map like this. So we'll see if Oz has something up his sleeve. It looks like he is sending out a early scout with his probe, and honestly, this is going to be pretty favorable against Idra's style. Idra usually wants to open up hatchery or open up spawning pool and a quick hatchery to follow. This might force him to build a few additional zerglings or maybe kind of adjust his style a little bit. I haven't seen him play actually in a bit, so maybe he's kind of adjusted to something else in the interim. Looks like Az has decided to take a pylon and gateway at his front door, and I almost worry about this, particularly against baneling busts and zergling speed and mass zergling to kind of follow, because it tends to be very vulnerable. You've got to defend your territory, you've got to maintain a pretty sizable count. And Idra going for gas first. I've seen a lot of Zerg players doing this recently, and I like it. Going gas even before spawning pool. And more or less what this forces your opponent to do is play more defensively just on what might be coming. Specifically zergling speed, so maybe mass zergling, maybe roaches, quick roaches, a lot of roaches, maybe some sort of quick tech, but basically whatever is coming, you see that gas, you got to kind of deal with it as a Protoss player, and as a result you've got to play a little bit more conservatively generally, and it looks like Az is actually playing, I almost want to say, a little bit more aggressively by taking, he already planted this gateway down here, and let's see how he defends that choke. Looks like he's already got a Zealot chrono boosting. Looks like Idra is getting a good look inside his expansion. And I almost wonder, I'm going to see if Idra starts off with Zergling speed or if he just saves it to go for a quick lair or maybe even a roach den to start, and we'll see it in just a moment. Yeah, it looks like he is in fact going to open with Zergling speed and try to, honestly, I don't blame him. I mean, you see this on the front door, you got to think, oh, well, if I get a surround on that before Az is able to get a nice grouping of troops out here, Az is going to be in a ton of trouble. And in the meantime, is Az doing something really creative. He's got a pylon with a Zealot right at the ramp of Idra. And what this is going to do is this is going to create a nice little blockade where the Zerglings can't really engage the way they want to, and so it's going to create a nice little funnel, and the Zealot's going to end up doing more damage than it would have otherwise. As you can see, the Zerglings can't get a surround, so the Zealot's much more efficient. And I almost wonder if this is, well, I'm almost curious about the economics of this. At the very least, it keeps Idra off his front door for basically 100 resources, but the fact is he does end up losing more or less 300 minerals out of this, so the 2 Zealots to sacrifice to start, as well as this pylon, and that also, well, that forces Idra to burn, just in case there was some sort of quick rush, things like that. Looks like some cannons being placed as well, forge planted. Zealot needs to get out there in a hurry. Looks like it will be in time, but the Zergling's going to be right there, and the blockade is planted, but the Zealot is not long for life. Very nice on Az's part to shove it in that corner to make it last a little bit longer. Once again, almost getting 3 Zerglings, but the Zergling's going to sit there in another chrono boosted Zealot. This is going to slow Az's economy down a little bit, but taking that natural expansion very rapidly should help with that, should help him cope just a little bit, and as a result he's going to be able to maintain the economic kind of detente with Idra. But unfortunately Idra is going to have map control. Well, unfortunately for Az, he is going to have map control for the next stage of the map. He's got those Zerglings out there, he's got speed Zerglings. If Az decides to make any sort of moves, basically he'll be able to just stomp right on top of it. But in the meantime, I think Az was just planning on going for more of a steady long-term economic sort of build-up, just because he took that natural expansion to start, and he needs to get his probe count up because he used so many chrono boosts, actually even on probes. I wonder how that, on worker units, I wonder how that happened. Maybe because of a later queen because of the Zerglings and things like that. And Idra does like to start off with a creep tuner rather than spawn larva occasionally. It looks like there's now a transfer to the natural expansion, but Az doing pretty well, gotta say, economically. I expect him to be behind, particularly when he's using so many of those chrono boosts just to keep his Zealots here out in the field. 3rd cannon planting. I'm curious how Idra's going to kind of cope, if he's just going to settle back down into a macro style. Looks like he's already got his lair on the way, grabbing his second gas. Let's see if he decides to plant a third gas to go for more of a heavy, gas-heavy kind of unit combination, or if he's just going to plant the minimum, maybe go for a third hatchery to follow it up. I assume he's just going to try to play more of a map control game that he's got, because he knows he has as pinned in. He's got the speed zerglings, the zealots that are wandering out are going to get picked off one by one. But the other thing is I almost wonder about the upgrade war at this stage of things with Protoss versus Zerg. Warp gates now coming in for Az, and Az's main problem right now is he needs to get some more infrastructure up, honestly. Yes, he has the 3 cannons on the front. Yes, he has warp gates coming along, but if he doesn't get a lot more gates in a hurry with the queens that Idra has, and plus the larva production that he's going to be able to output, it could be very, very dangerous. And it looks like a Hydralisk den is being produced for Idra, so I would not be shocked if Idra decided to follow this up with a Hydra break. Unfortunately, he is supply capped himself just for the moment, and a little bit of a mistake on his part. Let's see, I'm wondering if that was a misclick. He is producing, well, maybe not. Okay, there, it actually spawned right as I was clicking over. But that is going to hurt him. This is a big opportunity for him to amass a lot of units and more or less crash down on Idra. Looks like he's going to end up losing another Overlord, which is going to put him... never mind, he upgraded it to an Overseer. Let's see, he was able to dump just before I saw a changeling to maybe pull it out, and is able to flee and get to this high ground. Hopefully he can get it out of there before an observer or anything else can spot it on the high ground. But dodging a little bit of a bullet there, he would have been put in the red and delayed even further. In the meantime, he's getting groove spines and a ton of drones, as well as some creep tumors to provide. Basically what he wants to do is just creep tumor all the way to this location, and then Oz is going to be in a very difficult position. You do not want to engage Zerg on the creep at all, particularly Hydralisks, and in this sort of quantity that Idra is going to be able to produce, I assume, just momentarily. Looks like he's once again, and yeah, already pre-creeping this area, so I feel like Az is in a bit of trouble unless he gets some degree of mobility. Twilight Council, some additional gateways being planted, and we do have a robotics facility. Looks like a stalker just kind of hanging out along the corner, and I like this from Idra, having that Overseer right in the base. He can just wander in, see what he needs to see, and then just kind of sneak out. It looks like he is going to be able to sneak out. Let's see if he just camps it around this kind of corner area where he can, again, just run in, plop down a little changeling, see what's going on, run back out. No upgrades from the Forge. Oz does have a significant amount of probes, but he's pretty far behind as far as army count goes. Looks like he actually is about 6 ahead on probes, so just chrono boosting that a lot. But I wonder about this break that is going to be coming up. He really needs some, honestly, High Templar, which are going to be a ways away. Looks like he's got a Robotics Bay or even a Colossus, something to do some splash damage, do some groove damage against these Hydralisks, because these Hydralisks, with another batch of them, could take a lot of this down. It looks like they are going to start doing so. There's some Stalkers trying to take the high ridge, but there is no high ground mischance advantage. So Idra going to get a free gateway, maybe even a free pylon. Oof, that gateway with just a sliver of health left. And I feel like Idra, once again, in a fantastic lockdown position, as just completely cornered back. I almost wonder if Idra is even going to upgrade drop or something along those lines, or if he's just going to decide to play a little bit safe, get enough Hydralisks on that front door where he feels like he's in a good situation, and then again just try to take the map from there. Looks like he's going to be able to take out that Forge as well. Fortunately, no upgrades in that for Az currently. Some pylons here as well, and Az is just starting to bleed cash a little bit now. Is not able to really counter anything that Idra is kind of producing. Unfortunately, I don't see him being able to counter this in any time soon, so just going to get pinned back bit by this large, dominable, really scary Hydralisk army. Look at them, just frightening big teeth, almost tusks. I almost call those tusks inside their mouths, like some crossbred teeny elephant. Finally, a Colossus is out in the field, so Az can make a semblance of a counterattack. I think he's also got to have charge upgrading. It looks like it's about a fourth of the way finished, 2/3, or sorry, 1/3 I would say, and he's planning a lot more gateways down. So Idra actually needs to get a couple more Zerglings out. Actually, if he even had some Banelings to produce and just kind of hug the front door, even Zerglings would be fine to weed out those Zealots and just make sure there's something to absorb the main damage output of those Zealots directly on his Hydralisks, or maybe if you can even micro them back. The problem with microing them back against that charge, very, very difficult, basically impossible. You gotta wait for, you basically gotta absorb the damage, wait for them to run out of energy, and then continue running. And if you have enough Hydralisks, you can do it. Might be able to pull it off on this creep though, but in the meantime, he's continuing to engage, push forward. Needs to be a little bit careful engaging here. Not the best of positions, particularly with these Zealots just about to get charge. He is going to be able to take out some additional units, and Oz is backing off. He has a force field, going to continue to... Actually, I think Oz might actually be able to engage with this army with the charge. Coming up so quickly. It looks like he's going to wait, charge out. Was trying to warp in units, wasn't able to because he lost power, and now there's charge. Now Idra is in a lot of trouble. He's going to end up losing this entire Hydralisk army, just getting a little bit too aggressive there. The Zerglings flooding in, but they're just coming in, I feel like, a little bit too late, and the Colossus trying to clean up what they can around the corner. But it looks like there's just too many Hydralisks. Idra's still going to be able to take out this natural secondary, perhaps, if he can focus fire. Doesn't look like he's focus firing that Nexus, though, was instead focus firing the gas. These Hydrals trying to flee. Looks like 3 of them are going to escape, but otherwise losing a lot. He did take out a lot of the infrastructure, and Az, swinging a little bit too far, did take out a lot of Az's infrastructure, but he was not able to stop his economic output, and a nice corruption in the meantime to slow down that robotics facility. Good play on Idra in the background here, but a lot of gateways out. Looks like Idra has taken this 1 o'clock position, but I get a feel after that last attack, if he was going to continue with attacks like this, he maybe wanted to do that a little bit sooner, or maybe even get that populated a little bit before he attempted to do so, just to make sure he was maintaining some of that economic lead. Maybe he was just assuming he would be able to take out and crack that natural expansion. In the meantime, Az almost has a little bit of an opportunity to break out here in a second. He does have High Templar. Unfortunately for him, if he's, I almost feel like instead of breaking out, he needs to go for a kill attack here, because again, he is so pinned back. Playing economic catch-up against a player like Idra, you gotta assume he's already taking a couple expansions. I like Idra actually building a couple Mutalisks in the meantime. Really mobile units can pick off those High Templar. It looks like he is maintaining some good scouting, running in with an Overseer, checking out the gateway count. He knows, and just constantly, and this is beautiful right here, just nullifying completely that robotics facility, making sure it can't continue to produce those Colossus or Mortals or any other key units that he's really going to need to kind of cope with this army outside of his base. Finally breaking out, and let's see if Idra actually just moves right back in. Some creep right outside is natural, but it almost looks like, ooh, and there's the Mutalisks actually just running in and attacking that probe line completely undefended. Sorry, I missed that. Looks like he was able to take out quite a bit. And Idra just controlling this match currently. Looks like some Archons actually being morphed, and these Archons are going to be able to ward the Mutalisks back, but at this stage, just between the drone counts, the amount of territory that Idra controls, and the army composition that Az has, Ed just needs to run up and try to win the match now. Otherwise, he's just going to end up being too far economically behind. He needs to start engaging at the moment, but unfortunately he can't, because Idra with these Mutalisks can just continue to engage, continue to pick off troops behind him, and basically just do significant amounts of damage, and just completely outmaneuvering him, more or less, back and forth. So Idra, in the meantime, just completely filling up that 12 o'clock position with drones. He's in a very comfortable economic position. A lot of exposed overlords here on the front door. Actually, not as many Hydralisks and Zerglings as I would hope to kind of engage this army. And it's actually, I'm almost wondering where his additional tier units are, but engaging this attack force, some good side storm for Az, not really hitting much though, running up with those ults, and he's going to force Idra back, but Idra just getting a little bit too greedy. It looks like going too many drones, was just relying on his Mutalisks to pin Az back, but Az, realizing he was in a desperate situation, is just going to suicide forward with all of his zealots and kill a significant amount of Zerglings, and it's do or die here. If Idra can hold, he actually might have missed a spawn larva. Wow, larva. And Idra using, this is a lot like StarCraft 1 Protoss, where he's going to end up losing it because he just overextended himself, and even though he had some beautiful map position, just built too many drones at the wrong time, and Az able to capitalize on it. I almost feel like Idra, yeah, just missed a golden opportunity though. Didn't really need to attack there, didn't really need to engage in several of those positions. He would have been okay just sitting back and playing the full, more or less, starve him out map control style, which usually he does, but Az ends up winning this match instead, plowing him over and cursing at Az at the end. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for listening.